So, hypnotherapy and NLP, are they tools of manipulation that are good, or are they tools of manipulation that are a little bit squiffy? This is something I've been wanting to explore for the simple reason of I've been a health and wellness coach for a long time, and I've followed, certainly for the last few years, a lot of the more spiritual based wellness practices and looked into them a little bit more. Now, my background is that mainly atheist, but I was brought up Catholic, and I went to a Catholic school. So when it comes to things being all mixed up and jumbled up, I'm quite well aware of how this happens. But when it comes to one being vulnerable and needing to find something to feel better, to be better, because things aren't just right, and you start to feel out of control, then things can get really skewy again, and things that might have been felt or seen really clear at one point suddenly might not feel or look very clear anymore. And for me, there's loads of things in the spiritual or the well-being or holistic well-being realm that kind of fit into that box that's really squiffy. There's very little science or testing behind it, but does that make it good? Does it make it bad? Does it make it something we need to watch out for? Basically, this is about getting a sense of autonomy back and engaging critical thinking skills. Because what has happened over the course of COVID and the pandemic, dare I say those words, is that there's a lot of marketing going on. And I know I've taken courses with marketing coaches, and they all want to kind of push on your pain points and your vulnerabilities, and they all encourage us as wellness um, influencers or workers or whatever you want to call us, um, to really push on people's pain points, which is something for me never felt good. As a result, my business hasn't flourished in the way that some other people's are, but I just refuse to zone in on people's vulnerability. I think it's weak. I think it's very calculated. And I think it leaves people who are in a very unknowingly desperate situation vulnerable to all sorts of horrible manipulative, can't even say that word, behavior. Now, as I've been doing research over the last few years, I've seen the likes of Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and Bob Proctor, and then the likes of Teal Swan and Sadhguru and Joe Dispenza and Abraham Hicks, and I followed a few of those things myself, and I found the odd little bits helpful, the basic bits that come from Buddhist wisdom, which is you be mindful, do a little bit of meditation, be aware of your breath and your breathing, be a little bit more present. So all the basic stuff seems to be, it's fine. That there's nothing wrong that I can see there, but that seems to be the tools that they use as a way to get you in. And for me, this is the problem. The basic tools are fine, but once they have you in an ensnare, because these things do help you feel a little bit better, and now they've got your attention, now they can do what they want with you. So the question is, do they or don't they? Are they responsible while they do it? Aren't they? Do you have enough information to work out whether it's a responsible step for you to take or not? And this is the thing. If you don't have the filters, you don't know. And if you don't know and you don't have the filters, you're extremely vulnerable to coercion. And if it wasn't easy to be coerced, nobody would. If it wasn't difficult to be coerced, sorry, nobody would be coerced. The point is, when these things happen to you, you don't necessarily see it coming or know that it's happening as it is. So again, let's be really, really clear. When we say vulnerable, we're not saying stupid people or unintelligent people. We're saying you can't understand and know something that you have no experience in. And that is fundamentally the point. Um, and I wanted to start with NLP and hypnotherapy because in my best part of 20 years of being freelance, self-employed, in employment, out of employment, whatever else, I've come across a lot of NLP practitioners, hypnotherapists, people that want to help people get over things, basically. And this is before I got into the wellness industry myself. And they all seemingly did very, very, nice, good things. And I even went and had a few sessions myself. Um, to see what they're about. I mean, the best thing I experienced from it is when I was going through a phase where I was struggling to sleep, these things that they used in session, I was able to use at bedtime to help me go to sleep, which was great, fantastic. It meant I got a good night's sleep out of it. But for me, that's probably as far as the benefits went. And then when I was starting doing research, and it was brought to my attention that some of your more well-known gurus, and again, I'm not going to name names here because I've named enough names for now, and I've done them in a sweeping generalization because I'm not picking or targeting on any specific name. It's a practice. But you'll find that a lot of these wellness workshops or spiritual based workshops are grounded in the tools and techniques from NLP and hypnotherapy. And for me, they look nothing more than like a gaslighting situation where somebody of high narcissistic persuasion can manipulate vulnerable people into telling them all about themselves in front of a studio or an arena full of people and make themselves look good like the big enlightened one. Aren't I great? I know this. I just solved your problem that you've had for 10 years in 5 minutes. And for me, that stings. I think it's hideous. I don't think it's particularly healthy. And I just don't like the idea that someone can get under your skin that quickly. Someone that doesn't know you can have this affinity with you very quickly and get to know you that quickly. But we do know nowadays, because of psychology progresses all the time, and we have these terms like narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, and these terms, they're not diagnoses, just be aware of this. And when I mention these, I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not diagnosing, I'm just recognizing patterns. But seems to be with this kind of mirror idea where these reflect whatever it is that you're saying or feeling back at you, so that you feel connected in that moment. It's kind of an instant bonding situation. You think, oh my God, this is like this person who's known me forever. And I find that really insidious. And I think it's a really irresponsible use of tools and skills that can be used in proper clinical or therapeutic settings to actually get people the results they want. So my big question around NLP and hypnotherapy is it safe? Because you don't necessarily know this is happening to you. And what I wanted to do was have a conversation with somebody that I knew that had been qualified up to the flipping eyeballs in all this kind of stuff, and uses it in his everyday life, with his clients, doing various things. He's actually an advanced driving instructor, and he's found it a very useful tool to be able to get people through driving tests, which is a very good and very functional use of these tools. So I wanted to talk to him and really understand a little bit more about what NLP is, what hypnotherapy is, and the safety around that and the efficacy. I did do some research myself beforehand. I know there's no efficacy around it. That there's certainly from a clinical or a scientifically tested point of view, but there's plenty of anecdotal evidence. And the difference between anecdotal is somebody's just saying, yes, it was good for me, versus it's been rigorously tested under clinical settings. It's never been clinically tested because it's a really hard practice to have any clinical setting around, but there's plenty of people that will put their hands up and say, do you know what, it really, really helped me. And so what I want to do with this conversation is really give both sides of that story. Now, I did a recording with Liam, that's his name, and we weren't particularly happy with it, so we want to re-record. But I didn't want to carry on just not posting anything on my channel for now. So until I get this recording done in the way that I want to do, I'm afraid I'm just going to sit here and waffle on to you about things NLP and hypnotherapy, and whether they're healthy and they're good or not, and what they're based on. And then I can back it up with another video of actually having this conversation with someone who is qualified, so you know then exactly where I've got all my information from, being as it's not my professional area of expertise. So NLP and hypnotherapy was born of 3 different therapies amalgamated into one. I don't know the full story behind it. I'm not well versed. I have been told it's Gestalt therapy, person-centered therapy, and something else. I've looked at the videos of the original therapeutic testing of this, which was literally just the the therapists that were testing this theory way back with their client way back, and you get to see that session and how that session works, and how those three different therapies as one helped this particular person to get to understand and relate to different aspects of herself. And I'm going to be careful here because that it jumps into Jungian theory, and I don't want to jump down into the Jungian theory well for this for this video or for this particular conversation. I think it's a completely and utterly different conversation, because it requires a whole can of worms to be opened. And I will get some professional study on that as well to be able to bring that to you. But basically, you see this woman Gloria, and she doesn't realize what she's playing out in each of these sessions, different aspects of herself. That she's comfortable with or she's not comfortable with, that she's aggravated by or she's not aggravated by. And it's really interesting to see how the therapists interact with her on these different levels. Obviously, she's not got split personalities, nothing like that. She's a completely and utterly normal 30-odd-year-old woman of her time. So there's nothing untoward going on with regards to she needs proper psychotherapeutic help, although these are classed as psychotherapeutic techniques. But it's really interesting to watch those videos and just see how the conversation and how the therapist kind of mirror her actions sometimes and ask her questions that kind of put her a little bit on the spot. And when I say ask her questions that put her a little bit on the spot, it's like, why are you moving your foot like that? So it's nothing that's confrontational necessarily. It's just asking why, what's going on with you now type questions, which I find really, really interesting because her response in the session becomes really enlightening. And you can be really enamored by watching this stuff go on. And a lot of wellness gurus nowadays will take a practice like this, even though they're not licensed, they're not even studied in it, to be fair, and they'll go and do workshops around the world. They'll have a huge following, and they'll try and emulate this kind of stuff in just to make money, basically, but whilst looking good. But the difference being is they do it to look good, and you can see that the result of them is, look, I just helped you, so now I'm great. Whereas if you look at it in therapy, when people undergo therapy, the therapist says, how does that feel? Now, do you see how you can now move forward? It's not about the therapist. It's about the client. And there's a big red flag for me for when it comes to understanding the safety around stuff like this. By all means, you go and do what you need to do and what feels good to you. Just don't get drawn in by an allure that looks and sounds good that can end up being really damaging. And when I say really damaging, it can be life-threatening. These practices have led to people taking their lives, and we know this from cult behaviour, because this is how cult behaviour actually works through these type of methods. So again, we need to be really, really careful and really alert and mindful of this stuff, and the way people are talking to us, talking about us, talking to us, what they seem to reflecting back to make us feel like, do you know what, this person really knows us, and whether actually we're getting to know them in return. These things should be fairly reciprocal if we're building relationships. If we're in therapy, it's slightly different. If we're not in therapy and we're in a public forum, there is no one, in my opinion, and your opinion may be different, but there's no one, in my opinion, that should be taking your personal stories as a way to elevate themselves on a stage in a therapeutic setting full of thousands of people watching, whilst that one person on stage is humiliated. And they don't even realise they're being humiliated, which is really, really sad. Then when people try and speak up against them, because their followings are so big and because they've made it so dramatically well known that, you know, they are this great guru, it's rare that anybody will stand up to them. And that's fine. You know, that I'm not, this is not me standing up to them. This is me giving you the tools to say, actually, do you know what? I'm going to do this, whether they're qualified or not. Whether they know what they're doing or not, I want to do this in a public forum, and I want to do this like this, as opposed to go to a proper therapeutic setting, and just giving you the choice. That's basically what this is about. giving you the choice. I think many people don't know that they have a choice, because a lot of the way this is pitched to us is that, you know, the system is broken, the NHS has let us down, that the mental health services in America don't help people at all, they just put people on pills. And we hear this everywhere, and everywhere's broken and there's no help. So I'm going to be here to help you, and I'm going to save you because I know what I'm doing. And it's just quite frankly dangerous. So the question all around it is it safe? For me, knowing what I know, I wouldn't go back and engage in any of these things. But I know a lot, and I've studied a lot, and I understand a lot of nuances in psychology very, very well, though I'm not qualified in that area to overly speak about it, which is why I want to get people on to speak about it. For me, it's been more personal exploration. I would say to anybody is get professional advice from a qualified professional. We know not all qualified professionals are great, and that's unfortunate. So as much as they can be regulated, it doesn't make them great or right or fantastic. Things still slip through the cracks. But your safest option for me is to go through a regulatory process, or at least someone that's qualified if they're working private, and really, really care about you as the subject in that moment, and not care about themselves, the person in the spotlight in that moment. For me, they're the big differences. I'd like to hear back from you, to be honest, to understand your experiences, to see if you agree or disagree. I don't have the last opinion here. It's just an opinion I'm sharing for my own benefit, really. And hopefully somebody else will benefit from it. But if you do like what I'm saying and you want to engage more in these conversations and want me to have more of these conversations with you, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. I want to build this channel and be able to speak about lots of things in the areas of well-being, health and well-being. My specialist and professional areas, although this is my personal channel, not my professional channel, is exercise, fitness, and nutrition. I'm not a nutritionist, I'm a nutrition coach, and my persuasion in nutrition is more down sports and performance nutrition. But I do know a lot about functional medicine and functional nutrition as well, because I've done a lot of 4 years of studying functional medicine and grabbing all the CPD certificates and CPD hours for that, as much as anything else, because I was curious just to see actually if there's any conversation worth having around that, and things that doctors are missing that maybe other people that have latched onto, or whatever else. Again, with functional medicine, there isn't a great deal of science behind it. This is another conversation I will bring to the fore, hopefully, especially if you want it. So let me know if you see this video, if you want that conversation, because again, I should bring on a functional medicine specialist and have those conversations. And that goes into kinesiology and naturopathy and all sorts of other areas like that. So it's a great place to explore without saying definitely it's good and definitely it's bad. It's about giving you the tools and the information, the things that you need to be looking for, things that could be potential red flags, and things that could say, actually, do you know what, this might be worth giving a go for me. I don't want to rubbish everybody that's trying to do something just because there's no scientific evidence. But I am also sick to death of seeing things under ancient wisdom and ancient philosophy, and how good ancient wisdom is, and if it's Eastern philosophy and if it's Eastern wellness, that actually it's so much better for us. If it was so much better for us, I'm pretty sure the medical practices of the Western world would have them ingrained in, but they don't. And there's a reason for that. You know, our ancestors used to freaking die young, you know, and they died of disease, and they died of all sorts. And these are the things that are suddenly omitted in advertising in wellness spaces. And these are the things that we really need to start having a little bit of a critical view on. For instance, coffee enemas. Waste of your time. Just drink it and enjoy it, you know. And there's all these kind of things that come in, that fashionable fads, green juices, do nothing for you. If you want a cleanse and a detox, the only way to do it is let your kidneys and your liver do their job, which means you don't actually really need to do anything. Great. You know, there's less work for you to do. Make it as easy as possible for yourselves, and stop looking for complicated answers where things don't need to be complicated and expensive, unless that's what you really want. And if that's what you really want, then I'm not going to sit here and stand in your way. Simple as that. But if it's not, and you're confused, and you want a little bit of guidance around these things. That's what this channel is for. That's what I'll be using it for. I hope you'll join me. I hope you'll like and subscribe, and I hope you'll share it, and I hope we can build and I'm not going to say community around this, because again, it's quite insidious how these things have happened, especially over the pandemic period, and how it's built like an online cult. I don't want to do that. All I want to do is be able to strike a balance between, this is good information, this information isn't quite so good, and what you do on the back of knowing either two is completely and utterly up to you. But I don't think there's enough balance, certainly from what I've seen, and I might just be in my own echo chamber here, of where we're actually getting balanced information. It just seems to be everything is in your face. And I'm not an in your face kind of person. I can be seen as outspoken. I think that's mainly because I'm female. I think saying the things I say if I was male may make a difference. And there's another point of contention, is the male-female thing. But again, that's a discussion for another day. But there's loads of little rabbit holes we could go down and be really, really interesting and really fun on this channel without being sensational about stuff. I just want to keep it a little bit real. So if you're on board, I'm grateful to have you here. I would love to see more of you. I'd love to see you write some comments. Give me some ideas of what it is you want to see. Give me your opinions. If you don't agree with me, that's great. I won't be happy if you troll me or start calling me names. There's no need for that. But at the same point, if your opinion differs and you have a reason for that, I would love to read that. I'd be really, really interested, because there might be something that I'm missing. We all get blindsided. We're all human. We're all fallible. We're not going to get it perfect. All this is about having conversation. So hopefully you'll join me when I get to post another video. Hopefully it'll be a full video on NLP and hypnotherapy. I'm just trying to arrange another date with Liam. If not, I will speak to one of my other contacts and have that conversation with another contact. And I hope for the time being, this video will be good enough in just kind of giving you an idea, if nothing else, just to go and explore a little bit more around that particular area if you're thinking about walking down that path. That's all. I'll leave it there. Thanks very much. Take care. Look after yourself and look after one another. Be kind. Bye.